Hello everyone, welcome back for some more Fate Hollow Ataraxia. We are in, again, another cycle where things are a bit different because now we know of Karen, so things have been changing slightly. So let's see what other events lay in wait for us on this, this new cycle. Well, the answer seems to be not a lot, honestly. Okay, well, call it a day. Now, we do have, I know, if we go back to the church, there is another new event there. But is there anything else? There seem to not be. Well, let's go see Karen again. So, a girl unknown to me is waiting at the church, whether it's the first time or last, it has no meaning. Yeah, so that's the same as before, so this is our second time going in. I start walking toward the church. Of course, I don't really have any business here. I got all the information I needed last time. It's obvious that this woman is still hiding something from me. But I don't think she'll tell me anything more than she did last time. Her help isn't needed to resolve this incident. And yet you still seem to be approaching the church. So what's up with that, my man? I placed my hand on the door while grumbling. There are both good premonitions and bad ones. Without a doubt, this sudden urge to come here isn't going to be a good one for me. The hymn continues. I take a seat and wait for the end of a long reminiscence. The closed garden, the overlapping fingers, the dissident chord, the old bitter dreams and weak malice. It's a story from not long ago. The priest that was here 6 months ago would rend open the hearts of people with his words and actions. His methods were indirect and coercive. He would seize an opening to trample upon their deep wounds. That woman is the same as the priest. Her methods differ, but this music deprives people of their affectations as well. It's somehow unsettling. This is most likely an incredible performance, but I can't bring myself to embrace it. Where is this massive piano? Sorry, or alone in a place very far away, deeper than the empty sky. Got it. It says, rest your mind and let yourself stop moving forward. It says, take a break. If you are tired, you should rest your wings here. That kind of talk is irresponsible. Telling someone to rest while they don't have the power to stand in the first place is like telling them to end it altogether. You must not stop. You must not seek rest. Once you've started, you must fill the cup to the cup, you say. That's interesting. Abundantly decorated. Continue on in circles filled with the sky, the abyss of slumber before the end, the built temple. Oh, now we're at the desert. Yes, same. Nice, Guargura reference, my man. Shiro Emiya, confirmed into VTubers. Her performance was over before I knew it. I breathe a sigh of relief once I no longer have to listen to that unbearable piece. And, before I knew it, that woman was standing right in front of me. I lift my head and without standing begin to applaud. You don't applaud in church! Come on, dude. You should know this. Yeah, I like Tupac. Wait, really? Apparently my blatant flattery paid off as Karen nods, satisfied. And brazenly complains under her breath, oh, are you one of those people who are like, when you listen to music you have to not be doing anything because you need to like fully embrace yourself in the music? If you're doing anything while you're listening to music, you're not actually listening to it. It's like, shut up, let me drive my car and listen to music. It's fine. Judging by her reaction, she must find it meaningless to even answer. Well then, this silence is, it's a bit awkward. Somehow time goes by. Well, sir, I'll have you know, it's very easy for that to happen. In fact, it's hard to make it not. I didn't care about talking with her in the first place, so I'm completely okay even with this unpleasant silence. I settle into my seat and squint towards the sun rays beaming through the skylights.
確認するのですが、あなたは私をもう用済みだと言いませんでしたか？
言ったけど、ここは教会だろ。用がなきゃ来ちゃいけないっていうのか？
I mean, where else can I get the delicious Jesus crackers? I immediately respond to her unspirited question.
そうですね。訪れる者が迷いを抱えているのなら拒めません。
Nah, I just brought like a Tupperware container. Can you just fill it up with those delicious Jesus cakes? They are so good.
もっとも、あなたは子羊には程遠いですが。
Nice reference to the Bible.
辛辣だな。けど何も言い返せないな。うん。懺悔したいことは見当たらないんで、やっぱりあんたに用はないや。
では、私との接点はありませんね。
Our conversation ends on that note. The church fills with silence once again. She ought to understand my stance here, and yet Karen stands unmoving in front of me. We haven't got any business with each other, so she could just leave me alone and go back to her room.
他に話はないのですか？
だからないって。
I mean, we're technically talking about not talking. This is annoying. If we don't talk about something, she'll be standing here like this forever.
わかった。じゃああんたの話。はじゃなくてさ、こっちから話すことはないんだから、そっちが話すしかないんじゃない？俺、ネタはないけど、あんたの話なら聞くよ。
なるほど。それはもっともです。ですが、話すと言っても何を？
I don't know. What do girls like?
なんでもいいよ。話題がないときは自分の素性とか趣味とかネタにするといい。自分が何者かを示すのは会話の基本。
I mean, we're in a visual novel. That's like the entire crux of everything.
それはそうですが、そのようなことであなたはいいのですか？
Trust me, I get much worse conversations at home.
いい。話してくれるなら聞く。
I'm not really interested, but hey, if this woman wants to talk, I can't stop her. Besides, no matter what kind of talk it is, it'll probably be entertaining as long as it's something I don't already know.
わかりました。あなたには必要のない話とは思いますが、これも何か意味があることかもしれません。
Swear to God if she just pulls out a Bible. After that, Karen goes silent for a short while. Probably because she isn't used to talking about her own history. She seems to enter a deep meditation while trying to recall her past in silence. In the end, it was a predictably tedious tale. She was born in a country in southern Europe and lost her parents soon after. Her father was unknown to begin with. All that he left behind were his Adidas tracksuit and vodka collection. Her mother had a weak constitution. Oh, that's not Southern Europe. That's actually super not Southern Europe. I apologize. Her mother had a weak constitution and died 1 year after her birth. Official records state she was killed by a robber, but in reality, she seemed to have taken her own life. Oof. That's especially bad for the Catholics. The church treats suicide as transgression of the Lord's teachings. It's not a mortal sin. Well, yeah, because you're dead. But those who have taken their own lives will never pass through the gates of hell and will suffer eternal torment in purgatory. It's actually a good story. What? Her mother was a devout believer that, in the final moments of a painful life, found purpose great enough to rebel against the Lord. However, that purpose her mother found was meaningless to a smaller child. Yep. No matter how wonderful the meaning she found was for her, it didn't change the fact that she turned against the teachings of the Lord and left her child behind. Nobody was left to care for the child. Her mother had no relatives and her father didn't come forward. The prevailing opinion amongst the people was that her terminally ill mother had birthed the child from an unknown man, like a harlot. With no relatives, the child was entrusted to the priest of a small church. Her mother was a believer that took her own life. Her child was placed in the hands of an exemplary, devout priest who looked with contempt upon the woman who had premarital sex with a passing stranger. Can I just say, I work with priests quite a bit. What with them being, you know, what with me and the types of schools I teach at. The idea of a priest taking care of a child is so absurd. They are very different people. Like, they're not bad, but they're very scatterbrained, and I would not trust them with an actual child. It's very tough for them to arrive on time to events, yet alone make sure a child is fed. The child was entrusted to the house of God without a single piece of luggage. However, she did have one belonging. Karen. Her mother had left her with nothing but a name. The priest did not give her his family name, instead leaving it the same as the mother who had committed suicide. The name was Hortensia. It's the name of a certain flower that blooms on rainy days. The girl lived with the priest for about 8 years. The priest was filled with love towards the Lord, but shared no love for the child he had taken in. Yeah, that sounds about right. He provided funds for her upbringing, yet made her work as a servant of the church instead of sending her to school. Just by being born, the girl had sinned. She was not baptized at the time of her birth, and until baptized to welcome into childhood, she would be given nothing of the Lord's love. The priest declared that until then, the human known as Karen could not be recognized as a child of God. Dude, you can just baptize her yourself. However, it was questionable if this unusually strict priest would be generous enough to baptize an orphan at all. It is not that hard. There were 2 reasons why the priest did not grant her a proper education. In order to reduce unnecessary expenses and to prevent her from gaining knowledge. Knowledge must not be given to the child of a beast. Oh, come on. So we're talking about, when we're talking about this priest, we're talking about he's like the priest from, you know, Hunchback of Notre Dame. Like this is not a, no, he's not a priest. That was another guy. Regardless. But he's like the guy from the Hunchback of Notre Dame. All about hellfire. That's the type of priest we're talking about right now, you know. Wild that that's a Disney thing. This is the first step toward wickedness, and more than anything else, it would be inconvenient in various ways if she gained the capacity to think for herself. Ooh, scathing. After all, defiance and exclaiming harmful truths to the masses would affect the dignity of the house of God. To pray was all the priest permitted her to do. He instructed her to give herself to God. This continued for 8 years. Maybe she became used to suffering, or maybe her emotions were broken from birth like her father's. The girl didn't think of her life as difficult. She learned of the Lord and of men by watching the priest. She perfected her innocent prayers over those 8 years. Why is that italicized? And then came the year when the girl was of age to receive baptism. Stigmata appeared on her body, and the priest accepted his... Wait, what? Stigmata? Sorry, what is a stigmata? Because I assumed it was like a stigmatism. Stigmata in Christianity are the appearance of bodily wounds, scars, and pain in locations corresponding to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, such as the hands, wrists, and feet. I've never heard of this. Someone who receives the skin, who receives like the pain of Jesus is a stigmatist. A high percentage, 80% of all stigmatists are women. What the heck? Okay, most stigmata have been debunked as trickery. Well, some cases have included reportings of a mysterious chalice and visions being given to stigmatists to drink from, or the feeling of a sharp sword being driven into one's chest. Okay, so... this is interesting. Really interesting. Every now and then, because I do partake in church, like we have a famous story of ours where there was a guy who stole the bread from church, and when the Canadian police went to go steal it, the police officer said it literally flew through the air back to the church. You know, so sometimes you hear these stories and you're like, what? It's a little unbelievable. I know the word is belief, but it's like, oof, I don't know about that. You know? I have a hard time believing flying bread going all the way back to the church. It's just a little far-fetched. But I'll accept Stigmata in the Fate universe. Stranger things have happened. He could no longer control her. He opened the gates of the church that imprisoned her and handed her over to a much larger world. The fortress-like structure of the monastery was built deep in the forest. She cut her connections to the outside world and earnestly continued abiding by the teachings of the Lord in a larger prison. It was a separate world. For the men who lived there, it embodied the very virtues of poverty, purity, and meekness that they strove for. The monastery was a self-sufficient community consisting of devout followers, and all necessities for living were made within the monastery. The followers made their own food and clothing, and as a modest pleasure, a small amount of wine and cheese. Detailed rules for each monastery are different, but the principles are the same. There was only labor for living and prayer for the Lord. Inside the high walls, there was a world of peace and harmony. To achieve a union with God, they renounced the ways of the world and formed a closed society of the chosen and faithful. Naturally, that lifestyle requires more discipline than a local church in every aspect. The girl was accepted by the Cistercian order. Among the monasteries, that place had a particularly long history and strict discipline where love of the Lord rivaled even the worth of a person's life. To eat, to work, to worship, to choose. Even those universal rights were not extended to those not loved by the Lord. By that standard, the girl did not even have basic human rights. No, her very existence was unforgivable. It was unthinkable that the venerable Cistercian order would take an orphan child into its ranks. Yeah, this is where I call out, like, hi, the Bible literally talks about, you know, love everyone. And, like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But I feel like there's no exceptions to that. Just be cool, love everyone, let people live nice, happy lives. Is it so hard to ask for? Don't be mean, don't be rude. I feel like that's the basic teachings. When you get those people who break up into, yeah, but actually no, not this group of people, now you're just being a jerk, you know? Now you're just not following the teachings of Jesus. Jesus literally chilled with the prostitutes. Jesus was like, hey, you're a prostitute. Guess what? I forgive you. It's as simple as that. Jesus would be out here forgiving e-girls. Like nowadays. Like, come on. Oh boy, this part's gonna be spicy. Oh boy. Get ready, boys. The girl was accepted into the monastery solely because of the stigmata that dwelled within her body. To spontaneously be wounded, to bleed, and to be healed. Knowledge of this ordeal is passed down by the faithful. From the perspective of those believers who live in the other side, it was clear that the girl possessed an unusual power. When it was recognized that she was an advanced spirit medium, that she could sense the nearby drifting spirit matter, act as an intermediary and materialize it in the world through her own flesh, the girl's value skyrocketed. Actually, in a real, like, church scenario, that would have you kicked out because they don't deal with the spirit stuff. That unusual ability is not something that can be cultivated through training. An ability held from birth, it is a genetic disposition unrelated to the will of the individual. Such a rarity, having a high value, is only natural. Karen or Stensia's rare talent will achieve unprecedented results in a particular ritual. In light of this report, the Holy Church entrusted the young girl to the Cistercian monastery. Oh, right. I forgot that the church in the Fate world's a bit different. But then again, no matter how valuable she became, the church never bestowed the Lord's love upon her. The girl was given a room, an education, and trained as an instrument of the Lord. She was taught to conduct herself as a perfect believer, so that she would not bring shame upon the church's name whenever she went outside. As a general rule, a person who entered the monastery could not live outside of it. They may move to other monasteries, but being outside of a monastery altogether was not permitted. However, she was not invited to be a Cistercian nun. An agent, she was delivered only as an armament of the church for assistance in demon exorcisms. A weapon is intended to be guided by the hands of man. Sorry, I was just reminded. It blew my mind that you can literally just, like, phone someone for an exorcism and just book an appointment. Like, that's a thing. Like, nowadays in the real world. She was permitted to leave the monastery only when her unusual talents were required to make known the Lord's might. The might of the Lord was not meant to be turned toward humanity. It should be directed toward the wild ones who do not fear the Lord, the demons that threaten humanity. To manifest evil, a demon has to take over a human's body. To cleanse this person and reveal God's love to humanity was a task given to the woman. No, to the agent using the woman. She was employed by an exorcist, a special priest, one allowed to act as a representative from the bishops of the diocese. They answer the calls for aid, visiting towns of the possessed to exorcise demons. It was closer to fighting than praying. Her master frequently said to himself that the work was like washing the bottom of hell's cauldron. Oh, that's rad. Exorcisms vary in severity, and the ones her master faced were the particularly intense ones. They did not concern themselves with imposters who blamed their own mental breakdowns or demons, or with monster outbreaks. Their opponents were only those who had completely turned into demons. The tragedy caused by a true demon isn't something that can be endured by the human mind. All towns visited by the exorcist had deviated from the world of humans. The damage inflicted by a demon isn't limited to the possessed, but also spreads to the people around them. More than the possessed person, their spirits, rather than their bodies, are twisted into deformed monstrosities. As her master would say, it isn't far from a tour of hell. In an exorcism, the weak point that easily succumbs to death is none other than the human's reason. The body's ability to survive is not that important. In the first place, the extent of a human's power cannot compete with the likes of one who has turned into a demon. The physical body is protected by a holy relic embodying the miracle of the Lord. However, the spirit must be defended by one's own will. What is required in an exorcism is ironclad faith. In that respect, too, the woman was suited for exorcism. It is probably for the best that her emotions shifted so little. It is said that exorcism of a true demon is something that cannot be endured twice, but she continued to perform them indifferently. The woman was valued highly. She had the life of a nun and the role of an agent of the church. The workload assigned to her was nothing short of backbreaking. It probably would have overcome any normal person within a month's time, although, as far as she was concerned, it was not much different from the daily work she used to do. For her, who couldn't understand things like fun, torture had become indivisible from work. Pray and work. Ora et labora. Ora e labora. That is Latin. It's ironic. The words which symbolize the monastery had come to symbolize her own life as well.
I mean,
that's greatly reducing it to its base components, but yes. Karen seems to pout a little as she nods. Whoops, was she offended that I summed it all up a bit too much? Well, that explains her hands, too. Nope, I copyrighted it. It's mine now. I'm gonna make a movie about it. Her admiration and proposal are both sincere. Whatever, I honestly don't get this girl at all. Ah, he makes the joke. He made the joke that I did. I'm not sure how to react to seeing her act that pleased after telling such a depressing story. Well, somehow I just feel that way. This woman is actually pleased with having that kind of life up to now. Well, no, it's fine. It's not, but I want to clarify this part first. What the hell? Is this guy she's calling Master a coward? Don't tell me he was afraid to just go to towns with a possessed bird by himself.
何に憤っているかは聞きませんが、その短絡は間違いです。エクソシストになる者は悪魔を恐れません。恐れるのは心が折れることだけです。
へえ、ご立派で結構だけど、それなら一人で払ってればいいだろう。あんたが付き合う必要はないんじゃないのか。だいたいなんだ、飛躍霊媒体質だっけ。あんた悪魔の近くにいると憑依者と同じ霊障を生んだろ。なら助手っていうより邪魔者だ。火事場にガソリンかぶって飛び込んでるようなもんじゃないか。
それが私の役割です。霊障を受けること。それが魔を識別する最短の方法ですから。
So you're the tank class, and he's the DPS. Got it.
悪魔は人の目に見えず、取り憑かれたものは変貌するまでわからない。いえ、神聖な悪魔は巧妙に憑依者が悪魔付きであることを隠蔽する。育ちきるまで外敵を呼ばないよう極力霊障を抑えるのです。
That's interesting. That is interesting. Demons conceal themselves within the possessed. So a person wouldn't even know if they're possessed, right? Possibly? That's very interesting. That is incredibly interesting. Because, Shear's been having some weird thoughts. Just saying.
残念ながら、育ちきった悪魔を払う術は教会にはありません。エクソシストにできることは、彼らが育ちきる前に発見し、これを払うことだけ。
The only problem, of course, is the whole loop thing. That might also be part of it, so we'll have to see.
悪魔となった者は焼却するしかない。それを可能とするのは、異端審問に特化した代行者だけでしょう。
ああ。
Whoa, what was that?
そういう用途なわけ。
I didn't see what that was. A sudden emotion destabilizes me. I feel just a bit disgusted. Demons can't be seen by humans. Only the host knows he is possessed. The first and most difficult step in an exorcism is finding the demon that conceals its true identity. But what if the host doesn't know they're possessed too? Right? Because if there's nothing that actually points towards the host being... If there's nothing that points towards the host actually being possessed, if they can't figure that out, would nobody know? Even for a skilled exorcist, identifying a demon is like walking on a tightrope at all times. This is where she is useful. She has an idiosyncrasy that responds lustfully to the surrounding demons and evil spirits and causes the effects of the possession on its own. Wait a sec. Wait a tick. Horny. When Shiro approached her, she got extra horny. So was she copying Shiro's horny spirit? From the church's perspective, it's an extraordinary heresy. Although it would normally be a useless genetic trait that would be harmful to even let exist, there is one specific purpose for which its radical effectiveness is demonstrated. In short, the girl is a living detector that sheds blood to inform others of demons. It makes a tearing noise. It breaks her arms, crushes her legs, and rips her womb from the inside. That's a bad one. Even if the form returns, the function does not. The sight from those dull golden eyes was lost long ago. This bell-like voice may not even resound in reality. These are her true colors. She's a messenger of God who saves others by mutilating herself to death. Yikes! Her true calling was well said. It takes some kind of reason to endure such unreasonable pain. She gives unimaginable pain to herself. Even if she doesn't want it, injuring herself is still a masochistic act. You cannot injure yourself out of hatred. Her deeds are not something that can be done without love or faith.
一応聞いておくけど、それって拒否権はあるのか？ねえよな。あったら断ってる。
それも間違いです。教会は厳格ではありますが、非道で
Don't
は
know
あ
about
りま
that,
せん。
Chief.
悪魔払いの役職には拒否権があります。
I'm absolutely not sure about them not being inhumane because, like, didn't they literally not offer you human rights?
なら、
That's literally what it
なんで悪魔
means.
払いなんか手伝うんだよ、あんた。
It literally what it means. To be inhumane is to not offer human rights.
そちらの方が意味がありますから。
Mind you, that was the monastery, not so much the church, so that's fair.
それに、私には外も内も変わりはありません。
Going outside to perform exorcisms and being inside the monastery are no different. So that's it. I thought before that she was riddled with bandages and reeked of disinfectant, but it's no wonder. A demon stings the very heart of a human. No matter where she goes, she can't avoid getting hurt.
まるでゴミ箱だ。悪魔払いを手伝う理由になってないよ、そんなの。
Don't cuss in the house of the Lord.
あんた、愚痴の一つもないの。
自分が人に比べてハンデを負っていることは理解していますが、それも生まれついてのことです。恨んだところで始まりません。このように生まれついたのなら、その定めに従うだけです。
なんだそれ。治そうとか考えないのか？病気みたいなものなら体質改善とかしろよ。
And don't you dare say something like Jesus didn't talk about vaccines in the Bible, so we can't approve of them.
治療法は発見されていませんし、治したいという希望もありません。自分は不幸なのだと嘆けるだけで十分です。それに、私は確かに傷を負いますが、それは私の傷ではなく誰かのものです。哀れみこそすれ、恨むことはありません。
Whoa, 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 whoa. Holy shit. The hell is she talking about? Wait, what? What do you mean? Besides, although I certainly do become injured, those are not my wounds, but those of someone else. It is pity I... Are you talking about Jesus?
そのままでいいってこと？
はい。このように生を受けたのですから、その定めに従うだけです。
So is she like, hey, they're Jesus's wounds, so I don't feel pain? Because if so, it doesn't work that way. They are literally on your hands. She said she'll take everything as it is. I can't speak for how someone else might take it, but this kind of thing doesn't sit well with me. That's curious.
あんたさ、何がしたくて生きてるんだ？
人生に意味が必要なのですか？
Oh, we're going real
い
deep.
や、そんなものは意識しなくていいけど、あんたはさ、何もしないために生きてるみたいだ。そういうの、頭くるんだよね。
Someone had complaining about something like this. Wait, someone had complained about something like this sometime or another. It was... I don't like it when people aren't rewarded for their hard work. I don't like it when people aren't rewarded for their hard work. When were those words said? I wouldn't call it saintly. After all, these imposters known as saints don't try to reward results. Because it doesn't fit the equality they preach, they'd never speak of being rewarded in the end. That's why these are nothing but thoughtless words. It's not even hypocrisy, but a questionable, naive wish.
また空気が変わりましたね。先ほどは苛立ちでしたが、今は明らかに怒っている。
Apparently she can read my expression even with her eyes closed. But unfortunately, that's not quite right. It's not that I got angry just now, but I'm always in a bad mood when I'm here.
まあいいや、あんたにもポリシーがあるだろうし、いちいち口を出すことでもなかった。気に食わないが思うようにやってくれ。
Burger King.
そう。あなたは我慢できない人なのですね。
She pushes back with a blunt tone. Is it her turn to be angry now, or did she just return to her usual self? She looks at me with conceited eyes appropriate for this church.
何それ？
別に。あなたとよく似た人を知っているから、比べてみただけです。もっとも、その人は我慢できる人ですが。
That's interesting. Because there's not many characters I can think of that she's connected to, especially with that he there.
何の接点もない人間だけど、面白い共通点があるものですね。
Are you talking about Kirei? She grins broadly. I don't think it's appropriate for a substitute priest to flaunt her malicious intent.
何言ってるかわからないけど、あんたの知ってるやつと共通点なんかないだろ。
知らぬは本人ばかりなりね。エミやシロンは自身の欲望を殺し、世の不条理を許せない善人。対して彼は自身の欲望を許し、世の不公平を黙殺する悪人。
Yeah, you're talking about Kirei.
正反対の位置づけなのに共通項が多すぎる。まるで合わせ鏡の悪魔のよう。
An unpleasant smile appears on her face. I figured out something. Karen has even less individuality than I do, but she gets excited at the idea of rubbing someone's weak spot the moment she discovers it. The troubling part is how effective her nose is for this stuff. The woman used her unmatched senses to sniff out the scars of others.
その正反対のやつってなんだよ。
昔話に出てくる人物です。
Never mind.
あるところに国中の罪を受け持って死ぬまで罰を与えられた罪人がいました。
Oh. Oh.
彼は至って善良な青年でしたが、何の意図もなく罪人に選ばれた。人の意志による行為ですが、そこに人間の意図はなかったのですから、
You're talking
天
about
の意志と言えるかもしれませんね。
You're talking about Angry Mango.
天の意志ね。
That's interesting.
そんなものに振り回されて牢獄行きか。さぞ世の中を恨んだろうな。
いいえ、恨んだのは初めの数年だけ。彼は最後に人々を許しました。
Really?
長く転変する世界を見て、きっと全てを許したのです。
That's interesting.
憎しみは長く続かないってやつか。それはほら、なんだ。加害者側のさ、都合のいい願望だろ
でしょうね。彼に根付いた憎悪はもはや永劫と言えるものです。私たちが呼吸をするように彼は常に人を憎む、そういう存在になっている。その憎悪はもはや生態であって感情ではない。そのあり方で彼は全てを肯定した。世界は憎むに値する。人間は千差万別。何が起ころうともそれは不条理ではない。不条理には憎しみを持って相殺するから好きにしろと。大抵の出来事、大勢の人間の欲望をそれもよしと許容したのです。
そりゃすごい。善人じゃなくて聖人じゃないか、それ。
いいえ、全てを肯定するということは時に最大の悪性となる。わかりませんか？全てを許すということは、強者は強く弱者は弱いと切り捨てることなのです。加えて彼は個人の欲望を賛美する。本人がいいと思うことをしろと。善悪の観念はなく、ただそうであれと肯定している。
What a troublesome person, Karen adds. That certainly is troublesome. A mindset like that would end up endorsing crime.
まずくないか、そいつ。あんた神様の代行なんだから今のうちにしょっぴいとけよ。ほら、あの赤い布とか使ってさ。取り物は得意だったろ？
ご安心を。捕まえるには及びません。確かに恐ろしい存在ですが、放っておいても構わないでしょう。基本的に彼は無能で無害ですから。
She's 100% talking about Angry Mango.
何その言い分。ずいぶんひどくない？
真実を言ったまでです。何しろひたすら受動的で面倒くさがり屋な性格ですから、率先して悪を行うことはありません。
ならいいけど。で、 そいつと俺のどこが似てるんだ？
わからないのですか？本当に世界を愛しながら憎むか、憎しみながら愛するかだけの話なのに、こんなにも決定的に違っていながら、ただ順序が逆なだけのあなたたちが。
Interesting. Very interesting. Oh, hi, my eyes. Can you fix them? Did I put on my shades? My Gucci's? I'm afraid because I don't understand. Or so I was about to say, but it seemed like a waste of time. I didn't come to talk about this sort of thing to begin with. I just came here on a whim, listening to her talk as she pleased. I have no obligation to rack my brains over some uncomfortable doubt like this.
質問。なんでこんな話になったんだ？
I love popping that out in the middle of conversations and having people be super worried they can't recall the path that we took to get there. It's obvious now that Karen's switch has been flipped. The contrived shift in behavior is something I've seen often with Tosaka Rin.
驚いたわ。それもわからないの？あなた本当に高顔なのね。
他人の喜怒哀楽に疎いというのであれば同感だけど。で、人を苛立たせた理由は何だよ？
呆れた。いいわ。そっちなら答えてあげる。今のは私を勝手に測ったお返しよ。
Examining? I haven't even tried imagining what's underneath that unfashionable robe of hers, but it's like you're living to do nothing. Well, I might have been offended by her saying something like that was a bit too on the nose. In any case, I think staying here any longer would be even more uncomfortable.
そんなに話がしたけりゃ公園で適当なやつを捕まえろ。
A simple matter of going whoosh with that red cloth of hers.
ですから、私はあまり外には出られません。あなたは暇ではないのですか？
あんたに会うまでは暇だったけど、今は遊んでる暇はない。とりあえず目標をくれたからな、あんたは。
Ah, Karen responds in comprehension. That's right, I figured out my path from here on. I socialized with her because she's a valuable source of information, but I should hurry back if there are no more leads.
じゃあな、もし次があるなら、その時は少しぐらい役に立ってくれ。
約束しましょう。次にあなたが来た時、迷っているのなら道を示すと。その代わりにもう一度聞かせてください。あなたは何のためにこの異常を解決したがるのです。
そりゃあお前。
Then why is it exactly? Why am I obsessed with the resolution of this anomaly? Even though after the fourth day it'll be as though nothing ever happened anyway.
いや、それは。
愚問でしたね。我慢できない人と言ったのは私です。エミやシローにとって困っている人に手を差し伸べるのは当たり前のことでした。
With a poof, all doubt vanishes. Now that she mentions it, that's right. Because it was something I didn't need to think twice about. It probably wasn't even a reason at all. I can't believe it. But those are the kind of thoughts that fill this head of mine. I stand up to leave. She looks at me as though she still has something to say.
そんなにこの場所が嫌いですか？
It's dusty. Sneeze a lot.
それともここより街での生活の方が刺激的ですか？
半分当たりで半分外れだよ。ここは嫌いだけど、街をぶらつくよりはまあ新鮮味があって悪くない。
They say you'll get tired of even a feast if you don't try different foods every now and then. Simply enough to have my everyday normal life to go back to. Things like excitement and passion can come later, when I've forgotten about them.
じゃあな、そんなわけなんで、ここもあんたも気に食わないけど、気が向いたらまた邪魔するよ。
I start walking towards my daily
あな
life.
たの毎日は楽しいですか？
I mean, yeah.
どうだろう。
I go to the water park and it's great.
とりわけ感謝しなくちゃいけないほど強烈に楽しいってわけじゃないが。
I have to confess, rather than calling it fun, it's also dazzling. It's sometimes a little painful. There's a lot happens sometimes. I leave that foul church behind, with the organ's venom fading. I can finally think straight again. Karen said it's only natural for Emiya Shiro to save someone. But still, who am I trying to save? Huh. My man's being filled with self-doubt. Almost said south, which isn't the right word. Alright, call it a day. Hello? I gaze at the pleasant blue sky. Taking a break after a meal to enjoy some tea out on the veranda is a particularly special reward. It's a very ordinary nature that makes such everyday happiness the best.
それで調べてみたら該当するサーバントとマスターがいたわ。
Oh, plot.
聖杯戦争が開始してから4日目で脱落したのはアインツベルンのそこボケっとしない。せっかく調べてきてあげたんだからちゃんと報告を聞きなさい。
あ、いや、あれ、遠坂。
I'm momentarily confused. I look down and find Tosaka sitting beside me.
遠坂じゃないわよ。まさかあんた今の話全部聞き流したって言うんじゃないでしょうね。
No, I heard about the toes burns and the servant masters. Yes, yes. A sarcasm-free, direct-to-the-point question that is very uncharacteristic of Tosaka. The Tosaka air is infuriated to the point of forgetting her own family's always elegant motto. And always elegant craft essence, am I right?
すまん、聞いてなかった。そもそも、なんでここに遠坂がいるんだ？
I'm worried that she might not, or she might have just teleported here or something. I truly don't have any memory of Tosaka coming out here and sitting down next to me.
何？もしかして私が帰ってきたことも分かってないの？
バカ言うな。そこまでボケてないぞ。多分遠坂が隣に座って羽を伸ばし始めたのに気づかなくて、話しかけられてもこれまた気づかなかっただけだ。
それ十分ボケてるけど仕方ないわね。変な夢っていうか、エミヤくんはまだ4日間に苛まれてるんでしょ。疲れてるってことで見逃してあげるわ。
ああ、重ねてすまん。自分でも今のはちょっと怖い。それと、なんだ、別に寝ぼけてるわけじゃないからそう覗き込まないでくれ。
そうよね。ちょい近すぎた。
Tosaka leaps to her feet. Until a moment ago, she was incredibly close to simply pushing me down.
じゃあもう一回だけ説明するわね。あなたの言う4日間が何なのかってことだけど、それが何者かが聖杯にかけた願いだって仮定を採用するとする。
It's a good assumption. Solves most of the question of why.
この何者かが何なのかを知る手がかりはやっぱり4日間の縛りだと思うのよ。はじめ聖杯にも限界があって4日間しか再現できないものかとも思ったんだけど、それなら1日を永遠に繰り返せばいいわけでしょ。聖杯の力を節約するなんて意図はないと思うの。
I think they just like the theming of 4. You know, what with it sounding like the word death in Japanese.
だよな。聖杯は持ち主、召喚者の願いを叶えるだけのものだ。そこに自分の魔力をセーブしようなんて考えはない。
そう。だから4日間でセーブしている理由は他にある。聖杯の契約者は何らかの理由で4日間しか聖杯戦争を再現できないのよ。で、ここで重要なのは開始でも再開でもない再現ってことね。エミヤくん、この意味わかる？
What happened on the 4th day that's so important?
そりゃなんとなく。そいつは一度聖杯戦争を体験していて、そいつを再現してるってことだよな。
よくできました。そこにさえ気づけばあとは自明の理よ。4日間しか再現できないのは聖杯の力が足りないからじゃない。そいつは4日間しか聖杯戦争を体験できなかった。
はあ。
4日目で脱落したからそいつにとってその先の聖杯戦争は再現できないのよ。
I mean, the number of people, yeah, we could whittle this down, huh?
そいつってのは4日目で脱落したマスターってことか。けどそんなやついなかったぞ。
私たちの聖杯戦争にはね。で、以前の聖杯戦争の記録を調べてみたらちょうど4日目で退場したマスターがいて。
は
あ、以前の聖杯戦争なんて関係ないだろう。再現してるのは俺たちの聖杯戦争なんだから。
そう思うでしょ。けどちょっと違うのよ。あくまで例え話なんだけど、あなたの言う4日間は白紙の脚本で 私たちは役者なんだと思う。この脚本は白紙だから役者たちは好き勝手アドリブできるんだけど、たとえ白紙でも4日間という上演時間だけは決まってるから。
Huh? What's happening? Tosaka jumps backwards.
遠坂？
結界が反応しかけてる。シロ、一緒に来て。外に良くないお客さんよ。
This is a surprise. Yeah, I can hear it now.
本当だ。小さいけど警報が鳴ってる。鳴る前によく気づいたな、遠坂。
She's likely set up a similar barrier around herself as well. Ever since leaving for London, Tosaka's power has been steadily rising. What an ominous prospect. Right on Tosaka's heels, I head outside. Without turning to face me, Tosaka gestures behind me for me to stay on alert and cover her. I reply with a nod and ready myself for battle. Facing Tosaka now is... Oh. A woman I've never seen before. In the flesh, that is.
こんにちは。こんないい天気に何のご用かしら。魔術協会の魔術師さん？
それはこちらのセリフです。ここはエミヤ切り継ぐしの屋敷と聞きましたが、なぜあなたが出てくるのです？
I mean, it's like a boarding house now. We all come visit.
確か彼には養子がいるということですが。
That's me.
エミヤ君に用ですか？彼はあなたたち協会にはまだ関わりはないはずです。伝言があるのでしたら、私が代理として受けたまわりますけど。
Tosaka's grinning, but there's a firm rejection written all over her face. In reply,
今、あなたと戦う気はありません。いたずらに警戒されては私も反応してしまう。ここでは人目もある。魔術刻印を止めなさい。
the woman casually pushes back. It seems like Tosaka had activated the crest on her left arm. Having her potential insurance against the surprise attack seen through so quickly makes her grow even more agitated. But Tosaka should have already realized how meaningless it is. The woman standing before... Wait, the woman standing before of us... That's strange. Isn't looking for a fight. Nor does it seem like she's planning on a surprise attack. That's because her power as a magus is easily 3 times the level of Tosaka's. Oh, jeez. If this woman made up her mind to fight us, she wouldn't even need a surprise attack to overpower us completely.
わかりました。今日は視察だけということでいいのですね。
ねえ、マスターとして戦いに来たのではありませんから。しかし、不用心なのは感心できませんね。日中だからとセイバーを連れていないとは。
I want her to literally walk by carrying a bag of McDonald's, being like, num num num. Oh, by the way, I stand by this. There's people who are like, you know when it says Saber hates burgers? I highly doubt that. Saber loves food. But you know what Saber also needs to do? She needs to make sure that she's eating in a clean and mannerly way. And you cannot do that with a sloppy, juicy hamburger. I'm sure she would dig into a hamburger given the chance and love it. But the problem is the fact that it is an uncouth thing to eat. So in her spare... Secretly, Saber munches those burgers down.
セイバーを連れていない？
Tosaka's voice sounds a touch perplexed.
そうか。お互い生きているということは、まだ出会っていないのか。話は簡潔に済ませた方がいいということですね。
You said that out loud. I can't make heads or tails of this monologue of hers. The woman's gaze is fixed on Tosaka. Their conversation doesn't match up. All it will take is a mention of the date, servants, or even the woman calling Tosaka by name. Neither Tosaka nor the woman seem to notice the chasm that will make itself known the moment one of them misses a step. A balancing act precarious enough to send shivers down my spine. This is a miracle on the level of walking across a bottomless pit on a tightrope. I look on wordlessly. I don't know how many times now Tosaka's told me not to interfere should a magus from the association come. As I survey the woman standing before me, I feel dazed, or more accurately, astonished. The one who wasn't there, who shouldn't have existed at all, the 8th Master.
おかしな話ですね。今になってエミやキリツグの遺産を鑑定しに来たのですか？彼は教会には属さないフリーランスの魔術師のはずですが。
エミヤ氏の遺産をどうするかは私の管轄ではありません。私は前回の聖杯戦争の勝者である彼に興味があるだけです。それはあなたとて同じでしょ。この町に眠る聖杯を得るため、こうしてエミヤ邸に訪れているのですから。
Tosaka's doubt turns into confidence. The misaligned gears have shifted back into place, and this disjointed conversation has finally started to make sense.
ちょっと待って、聖杯って教会は何を勘違いしてるの？聖杯戦争は終わったのよ。今回の儀式が大失敗して聖杯を召喚する礎そのものがなくなった。冬季の聖杯戦争は第5次で終わったでしょ。
A magnificent sense of balance, and yet she's slipping up. Of course, tightrope walking cannot continue on forever. It's an obvious fact, yet this woman still came all the way here. Why?
確認するわ。あなた、第5次聖杯戦争がもう終わったと言った？
I feel a chill. If she were to nod, a fistfight would occur the very next instant. And yet, despite tremendous bloodlust emanating from the woman, Tosaka goes ahead and nods right in front of her.
ええ、この町にはもう奇跡は呼び出されない。第5次聖杯戦争は聖堂教会が派遣した監督役琴峰綺麗の違法によって幕を下ろした。あなたたちだけでなく教会側も彼の死をもってこの土地から手を引いたわ。
琴峰、綺麗。
That's a new sprite. That's a scary sprite. Something falls. Though this woman was ready to use her strength to push away even the fact of the Holy Grail war being over, at the sound of that single name, she lets the mask of steel fall away.
琴峰が死んだ。
Oh boy. Oh, she's losing it.
ええ、半年前に死んでいる。彼は第5次聖杯戦争の勝者であるエミヤ四郎に倒されたわ。
Oh, we're screwed. Tosaka's eyes shift towards me.
エミヤ四郎。そんなマスターは知らない。いえ、今回の聖杯戦争に勝者がいるなんてそんな。
There's no way. There's no way I will recognize one, says the burning hatred in the woman's eyes. Several seconds pass. Tosaka takes a step to forward, protecting me.
ねえ、さっきから気になっていたんだけど、聞いていいかしら。あなた、その片腕どうしたの？
She asks a very odd question.
え？
Two surprised voices make themselves heard. As though suddenly remembering something, the woman reaches out her right arm to her left arm, and everything comes falling down. I had no time to call out to her. The woman flees at full speed, running as though she'd just seen a ghost. Although if you ask me, I'd say it was Tosaka and I who were visited by one.
魔術協会も人材不足ね。末端の管理ができていないのかしら。
What did you just do? Either she has no desire to chase after the woman, or she doesn't dare try. After saying a line that sounds like she read it from a script, Tosaka turns around to face me.
今のでしばらくは寄りつかないでしょう。
Can you explain what you just did?
なんか精神的に不安定なやつだったけど、実力は本物よ。私たちだけで戦ったら返り討ちにされてたし。
Well, what did you just do?
勝手に帰ってくれてラッキーだったわ。
What did you do?
で、エミヤ君、今の人を知ってる？私は初めて見る顔だったけど。
Then what did you say?
いや、俺も初めて見る顔だった。
そう。けど、ものの見事に無視されたわね。凄腕の魔術師だったけど、エミヤ君が魔術師だってことは気づかなかったみたい。
いや、今のは無視っていうより、初めから目に入っていなかった感じだった。
So she's one of those types who thinks that the vast difference in our ability level makes me unworthy of her consideration. Suddenly, my training feels inadequate.
なら大変ね。彼女、きっとあなたの敵よ。なんとかしたかったら、セイバーの手を借りなさい。
And so, Tosaka directs a backward glance at me, her brightness of a moment ago vanishing.
何が言いたいのかわからないんだが。 もし戦うならセイバーと2人で行けって？
そう。それでも無理ならランサーに相談しなさい。あいつだったら彼女の手の内は知っているでしょうし。
This encounter, a conversation spanning only a few minutes, was enough to Tosaka to grasp the workings of the whole situation. But that is all. She isn't about to suggest a way out of it.
先に戻ってるわ。この件に関して私はもう不干渉だから。解決したいのならあなただけで解決して。
Saying so coldly over her shoulder, Tosaka heads back indoors.
いい女だな、あいつ。
Those words just slipped out for some reason. This doesn't mean that Tosaka's abandoning me. Just the opposite. It feels like she's done all she can to give me a chance. Strange. Strange. Well, there's new events popping up, so that's good. Do we got any new Emmas to deal with? We just got this one, which is way too expensive, so we'll get to that later. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Next time we got new events to go through. The plot continues to thicken deeper and deeper. So I'll see you next time for some more then, where hopefully we maybe start piecing things together. We probably won't. See you then. Ciao.